Part 1. The Echo Before the Storm. My name is Marco. I am 35 years old, married, and a father. And I'm about to confess something no one is supposed to know. I didn't plan it. I never looked for it. I wasn't unhappy. That's what haunts me the most. My life was stable. My wife, Olena, is beautiful in that quiet, timeless way, the kind of woman who folds laundry while humming the song from our wedding without even realizing it. Our son, Timothy, just turned 5. I used to come home from work and find him hiding behind the curtain, giggling, waiting for me to find him. He still does it. We had no cracks, no shouting matches, no broken glass, only laughter, warm meals, birthdays, and sleepy weekend mornings tangled in blankets. And then, he came. His name was Yaroslav. We met by accident, or fate, if you're the kind of person who believes in that. I was at a business retreat in Lviv, sitting alone with my coffee in a crowded hotel lobby, waiting for the next seminar to begin. He asked if the seat was taken. I said no. He sat down, opened a book, and just like that, everything began unraveling. He was unlike anyone I'd met. His presence had a gravity to it, calm but electric. He asked what I did for work, then asked what I wanted to do. Not many people ask that. Then he asked if I was happy. And I lied. Yes, I said. He smiled like he knew I wasn't telling the whole story. We talked for 30 minutes. Then an hour. Then 3. We missed the seminar, and neither of us seemed to care. He was witty, sharp, but never tried to impress. He had stories about the villages he photographed in Zakarpattia, about sleeping in train stations during his travels, and about losing someone once, someone he never named. I remember thinking, he talks like someone who has known silence longer than he's known comfort. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I had cheated. I hadn't. Not because I wanted to leave my wife. I didn't. But because something in me had shifted, the way snow starts melting underfoot even before the first bloom appears. Yaroslav and I kept in touch. At first, it was just casual. A message here and there, a photo he'd taken, a quote from a book. Then came the late-night texts. The inside jokes. The voice notes I'd listen to secretly, smiling like a fool in the middle of the night while Olena slept beside me. I told myself it was nothing. That it didn't mean anything. That I was allowed to have a friend. But something about the way I started hiding it told me otherwise. Then one day, he wrote, "I'll be in Kiev for an exhibit. You should come." I said I was busy. That work was crazy. That Timothy had a cold. He replied with just 4 words. Don't lie to yourself. That was the first time I felt the earthquake beneath my feet. Still, I went. We met in a gallery filled with strangers. His photos were all around, haunting, beautiful, lonely. I stood before an image of a single bench in a winter forest, and I remember thinking it looked like the place inside me I never let anyone see. He came up beside me and whispered, I took that the day after my mother died. And something in me collapsed. I didn't kiss him. I didn't touch him. But when we said goodbye and his hand lingered on my shoulder for half a second too long, I realized something terrible. I didn't want to forget how that felt. And worse, I knew I couldn't tell anyone. Not Olena. Not even myself. So I went home. And pretended everything was fine. I tucked Timothy into bed. I kissed my wife goodnight. I lay awake in the dark staring at the ceiling, wondering when I became someone who had a secret. And every night after that, the weight of it grew heavier. Because I wasn't cheating. But I was. Because I didn't love Yaroslav. But I did. Because I didn't want to leave my family. But part of me already had. And I still don't know what to do. Part 2. The room where nothing happened. It's strange how the smallest moments carry the greatest weight. It wasn't the kiss, because there wasn't one. It wasn't sex, because we never even touched beyond the way friends might. But I remember the hotel room. Not because of what we did. But because of what I wanted to do and didn't. It was 3 weeks after the exhibit in Kiev. Yaroslav was passing through my city on his way to Poland. He texted me, passing through your orbit. Just dinner. I deleted the message. Then retyped a reply. Then deleted that too. By the third time, I answered, just dinner. I told Olena I was working late. It wasn't even a lie. I did have meetings. I just didn't tell her where I was going afterward. The restaurant was quiet. No music, only the clinking of glasses and the sound of people living lives far simpler than mine. He looked tired. He'd been photographing a protest in Moldova, got tear-gassed, lost a lens, cracked a rib. Still, he smiled when he saw me, the kind of smile that forgives all the silence in between. We didn't talk about the last time. We didn't have to. After dinner, we walked toward the metro, and then he said, "You don't have to come up. I want to talk to you without the clock running." I followed. We sat in the small corner chair of his hotel room. A storm started outside, soft thunder rolling across the sky like it was whispering secrets between clouds. We talked for hours. About life. About fear. About how silence sometimes says more than words ever could. He told me about the man he used to love. The one who left him after 3 years and moved to Canada. He didn't even say goodbye, Yaroslav said. He just disappeared like smoke. So now I leave first. Before anyone has a chance. Then he looked at me. And I looked back. And something inside me begged to move. To reach. To touch. To fall. But I didn't. Instead, I said, I should go. And I did. That was the night the room became sacred. Not because of what happened, but because of what almost did. Back home, life continued like clockwork. Olena didn't notice the storm in my eyes. Or maybe she did, and she chose to believe the silence. Some wives do. Not because they're blind, but because they love you enough to close their eyes. Timothy had his kindergarten recital that week. He dressed like a hedgehog and sang off-key, and I clapped louder than anyone in the room. I looked at my wife and son and thought, this is enough. It should be enough. Please let it be enough. But the more I told myself that, the more the absence of Yaroslav echoed like a drumbeat beneath the surface of everything. He didn't text. Not for weeks. And it hurt in a way I couldn't explain to anyone. One evening, while Olena and I were folding laundry, she asked me, so casually it nearly killed me, "Are you happy?" And I froze. Because I remembered asking the same question to a stranger in a hotel lobby not long ago. I said yes. Of course I did. And I smiled. She smiled. The laundry got folded. The world kept turning. But I couldn't breathe. Then came the message that shattered everything. From Yaroslav. I'm done running. But I won't wait forever. No pressure. No demand. Just a sentence that split my soul in two. And now, I don't sleep. I lie next to my wife, who trusts me. I wake up to my son, who worships me. And I carry a secret that hums in my bones like a second heartbeat. I haven't told anyone. Not even my best friend. Not my brother. Not my priest. Because this isn't about cheating. It's about betrayal of the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't leave bruises but breaks you all the same. Part 3. The life we're pretending to live. I started avoiding mirrors. Not because I hated what I saw, but because I no longer recognized it. There was a moment, 2 weeks after Yaroslav's message, when Olena walked into the room while I was tying my tie. She adjusted the knot, smiled up at me, kissed my cheek like she always had, and said, "You look like someone with no secrets." And I felt sick. I laughed too quickly. Too loudly. She paused, eyes searching my face for a flicker of something she didn't want to find. But she let it go. I think that's when I realized. We weren't living our lives anymore. We were performing them. Breakfasts. Commutes. Bedtime stories. Laughter. Sex. All of it, a perfectly rehearsed play. And the tragedy was, she didn't know she was on stage. Only I did. But I wasn't acting alone. Because I hadn't told Yaroslav no. I hadn't blocked his number. I hadn't drawn a line. In fact, I was waiting. Every day that passed without a message from him was a strange mix of relief and pain. And when he did right, in Warsaw. Strange air. Stranger thoughts. I replied without thinking, tell me. And we were back. Late night talks. Long silences that felt like pages between chapters. The safety of distance. The danger of what we didn't say. Until he sent the message I feared most. I've taken a job here. I won't be passing through anymore. This time, if you want to see me, you'll have to come. It wasn't an invitation. It was a challenge. And for 10 days, I did nothing. I didn't reply. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat properly. I smiled at the right moments. Played the role. But inside, everything was cracking. One night, I sat on the edge of our bed while Olena slept, and I whispered into the dark, help me. I wasn't even sure who I was talking to. My father, dead 10 years now. God, who I'd stopped praying to. Or maybe just the version of me that existed before this all began, before the hotel lobby, before the silence that didn't feel like silence, before I met the man I should never have spoken to. I told myself I needed closure. Just one last conversation. One meeting. A clean goodbye. So I booked a ticket. One night. Warsaw. I lied, of course. Said it was for a client. Said it was urgent. Said I'd be back before dinner the next day. Olena didn't ask questions. She kissed me goodbye. Don't forget to call before bedtime. I promised I would. And I meant it. At least, I wanted to. Warsaw was colder than I expected. I wore the wrong jacket. My hands shook. Maybe from the cold, maybe from the guilt, maybe from the fact that I didn't know who I was anymore. Yaroslav met me outside a small cafe near the river. He looked older. Tired. But he smiled when he saw me, and that smile. I wanted to hate him for it. Instead, I followed him into his apartment, silent. It was small. Sparse. A mattress on the floor. Books in stacks against the wall. A plant he'd clearly forgotten to water. He poured tea. Sat across from me. Said nothing. Until I said, you ruined me. He looked at me for a long moment. Then replied, you were cracked long before I touched you. And I broke. Everything I had buried, the guilt, the want, the ache, the fear, poured out of me in a way I never knew it could. I told him everything. About Olena. About Timofey. About the mirror. About how I hadn't touched him, hadn't crossed that final line, but how I was already lost. He listened. Never interrupted. When I finished, he said only, so what do you want? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. And then, he stood. Walked toward me. And for a second, I thought. He might kiss me. Instead, he placed his hand gently over mine and said, then go home. While you still have one. And I left. Back in Kiev, everything was the same. But everything was different. Because I had crossed a line, not physical, but spiritual. I had looked into the eyes of a man I could have loved, and I had chosen not to. But not because I didn't want to. Because I was afraid of what it would cost me. Because I wasn't brave. Because I loved my wife, just not in the way I used to. Because I couldn't bear the thought of my son growing up in 2 houses instead of 1. Because I had already gone too far, and yet somehow, not far enough. And now I live here, in this in-between. I sit at breakfast with Olena, who still hums songs while making coffee. I pick up Timofey from school. I laugh. I kiss. I pretend. I still write Yaroslav. Not often. Not anything dangerous. But enough. Enough to know he's still out there. Enough to keep the ache alive. Enough to remind myself that the life I'm living isn't the only one I could have lived. Part 4. The choice I'll never admit. The hardest choices are the ones no one sees coming. I lie awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering when I became a man who can't make a choice, or maybe who's already made the worst choice without knowing it. Olena trusts me. Timofey adores me. And yet every night, I dream of Yaroslav. Not in the way you'd imagine. No stolen kisses or whispered promises. Just a quiet presence, a reminder of what could have been. Or what might still be. Last week, Olena asked me again, in a way that cut deeper than any knife, are you happy? I couldn't look her in the eyes. Because I wasn't. I don't know if I ever will be. I want to tell her the truth. That my heart is split. That I'm trapped between two worlds. That one part of me is screaming for freedom, while the other is begging for stability. But I can't. So I pretend. Smile when she smiles. Hold Timothy when he falls. Live a life where every joy is tinged with shadow. Last night, Yaroslav sent me a message. I'm leaving Warsaw. I don't know when I'll be back. If you want, now's the time. I stared at those words for hours. Then I deleted them. Because I can't. Because I won't. Because I have a family. Because I'm afraid. Because I love them. And because I don't know who I am anymore. Maybe one day I'll find the courage to choose. Maybe I'll walk away. Or maybe I'll stay. Or maybe I'll live the rest of my life with this secret quietly burning in my chest. I don't know. All I know is that I found another. But in this family, everything is fine. And I don't want to leave her. Thank you for watching. Subscribe so you don't lose it, and write your story in the comments. Comment to you, the reader. What would you do if you were me? Have you ever loved someone outside of the life you built? Can love exist without betrayal? Or is it always one or the other? Tell me your story. I'm listening. Thank you for watching. Subscribe so you don't lose it, and write your story in the comments.